Hey everyone, I'm satisfied with the progress I'm making on DAAC, though it has been slower this month with the holidays and graduating college. I'm also going to be away for about a week, so I wanted to get a video out before I leave. The humanoid enemies are now combined into one class with restructured code. Now I can just select if they're ranged or melee with a boolean. I'm working on making the enemies smarter too. For example, the ranged enemies used to just lock onto you, then unload their guns in bursts until they ran out of ammo, whether you were behind a wall or not. So now they have a line trace pointing forward, and if it's colliding with the player, they can fire, and if it's blocked, they'll save their ammo. I also allowed them to reload their guns so they don't just stand there clicking away with an empty mag. The melee guys were worked on more too. The parry knocks them down to the ground now, where the player can stomp on them, killing them instantly. The throw does an insta-kill now. I might change it back, but now it just knocks them down, similar to the parry. The player can then run over to them and perform a stomp to kill them. The third kind of humanoid enemy is technically still a ranged one, but has a shield. This shield can be used by the player too. It blocks most bullets, but sometimes the spread of a gun will allow a bullet to hit the legs, which causes damage. I think the shield enemies should be carefully tuned so that they're a good challenge but not annoying. We discussed this a bit in the Discord, with CG2512 mentioning that the bullets which hit the legs below the shields is just RNG, so maybe the shield collision should cover the whole body. It feels good to hit those shots when the enemy has a shield, but doesn't feel good to receive them when the player has the shield. So how do you kill an enemy that has a shield? Chi suggested they become vulnerable when attacking and can be staggered. Total Man's idea is to have the shield enemies rotate slower than other enemies, allowing the player to flank around them. Sikke said that they can lower their shields when reloading. They're all solid ideas that I need to put to the test. Pythoria also mentioned shield bashing, which I think could replace the quick melee when the player has a shield. The inspiration behind the quick melee is the right click in Left 4 Dead, where you just shove enemies back, though this just does regular melee damage right now. I've been working more on stealth mechanics too, which are actually turning out more fun than I thought they would be. I made a quick warehouse to test out a few new things. The enemies have a patrol state where they walk between 2 points now. They also turn in place before moving in both this mode and the random movement. This way they don't just snap to a new rotation, allowing the player some time to react. I redid the walking animations for Stacy. Her footsteps are quieter in this mode too. I should also add some kind of visual indicator that she's sneaking on the HUD. When she's running, I figured her footsteps are loud enough to be heard. Now if she runs near an enemy, they'll hear the sound and go investigate. Sneaking up behind an enemy and meleeing them kills them instantly, as does shooting them. I think I should add takedown animations for the melee. Taking them out by shooting might be more risky since guns are loud. If you have a suppressed gun, however, the sound is much quieter. Not silent though. If you're close enough, they'll still hear it. It's also a little strange that enemies will walk past dead bodies, but maybe not for these androids since they're not supposed to have developed emotion. I think if they see a dead body, they should run over to it, then go into the random movement mode. That would be a simple way of detecting bodies, but that means the player would have no control over whether they see the dead body or not, which brings in the dragging bodies mechanic. I mentioned how stealth can be a slippery slope, so I think I should avoid the more advanced stuff like this, considering that combat is generally more fast-paced. There has also been a lot of small fixes, like characters with long hair. Suki's braids don't spaz out anymore, allowing me to confidently capture footage of her. The android's hair also isn't static anymore. I worked on grenades some more, where they actually do damage now. They are still just tossed out in front of the player, but I plan to make them thrown in an arc that ends where the crosshair is. With explosives working, I added a grenade launcher and an M16 with an M206 under the barrel. To fire it, you press the grenade button, which will just fire it once. After that, you'll be back to throwing grenades regularly. I also made an outline shader which affects the whole world. I think it fits pretty well. A big development with the combat is verticality. Before, I had planned on the game essentially being completely flat. There would be transitions between different floors and maybe a step up and down here and there, but that'd be it. Adding verticality would make more interesting level design and fights though. With any new mechanic though, it adds a lot of problems. How do players reliably aim at the right elevation? How do they know they're aiming above or below themselves? How do the enemies react to this? The crosshair goes to the mouse position by detecting where it is in relation to the camera. The position of the mouse then shoots a line trace down at the ground, which collides with the specific collision layer. This then gives the world position of where the crosshair should go. This means that to make the crosshair appear on geometry with different elevations, I just need to enable this collision on those objects. But when the crosshair is at a different elevation, Stacy needs to look at it in order to shoot there. Here I just got the correct rotation and applied it to her collarbone. Now she looks up and down and shoots at the right spot, and enemies know how elevation works too. The crosshair sprite also changes to inform the player if they're looking above or below themselves. Just one thing left to do in terms of verticality, adding a falling and landing animation. The player can't jump, but I'm sure there will be a few areas where they can fall off a ledge. I added the final playable character. She's a harpy named Dusk, an OC of Harpy, or Tiny Demon. Harpy is also doing the voice work for Stacy, all the pain grunts and voice quips and everything. There's also a couple people contributing music to DAAC, Simon Sound and Elara in Heaven. Here's one of Simon's tracks. And here's one of Elara's. I linked their stuff in the description so you can check out more of their work. Well, like I said before, it's been a slower month, but I'll be itching to put in more work when I get back. I'm gonna work on something small while I'm gone though, so look out for that. I've also started organizing an actual plan for the demo, which of course is taking its time. My plan is to polish the combat and include a sandbox area with a couple of demo levels. This build will focus entirely on the combat mechanics, of which the only one I need to finish is the feral mode. After that, the next release will include the bar and the non-combat mechanics like drink mixing and character interaction. Then the final demo will include more content and hopefully will be in time for the Steam Next Fest in June. I've considered doing the March one, but apparently you're only allowed to put your game's demo on only one Next Fest, so it might be better to wait for June to have something more polished. But when is that first demo coming? I can't give a solid date really, just stay tuned. And for some comments, Tank1208 suggests that the less health you have, the less alcohol you need to go feral, plus it'll make you go feral longer. I think this makes sense realistically since you'd have a thinner amount of blood, but this could work well, a sort of last-ditch effort. Baterax says to add a push, which is just a quick melee pretty much. Adding environmental hazards is also tempting, reminds me of Dark Messiah. They also suggest adding the ability to grab enemies and use them as a shield, something that other people have suggested too, so I should actually consider adding this since it seems to be a popular request. Commentator also suggested a sort of push for the enemies, but in place of stunning them for the parry. I'd rather use this idea for the quick melee since I'm satisfied with the new parry I have now. They also talked about enemies spotting dead bodies, a topic which I talked about earlier. Having them kind of radio close by enemies is a cool idea though, I might put that to use. Anyways, thank you guys for all your support, and I'll see you later.